Hey everybody, hope you all are doing well and welcome back to Whiskey Wonders. And if you've been following along with us, friends, on our wonders, especially with the most recent international series, you will see us here at the Paris Whisky Live event, which is one of the premier whiskey events on the continent of Europe. And we got a chance to cover the bourbons and the American whiskey booths that we went to before. We got a chance to cover the Japanese whiskey booths with the Suntories, the Nikas, and the Chichibus, Chichibu, which are amazing, of course, but the largest portion of this whiskey event, and really of any whiskey event that's going to be this size in Europe, is going to dedicate a massive section to those who love Scotch. So today we're going to talk about the Scotches that we got a chance to try from some of the biggest Scotch houses, the Macallans, the Glenffidich, the Glenmorangies, and a few more, and also some from my little favorite part of Scotland, the good folks from Islay, the Lafroigs, Ardbegs, and the like. So we're going to chance to try all of those and talk about, what the event was like and whether or not it's worth going back. Now, before we get to the video, if you like these videos, if you like all of our videos really, the wanders or the hauls or the reviews, the unmodelings, the unboxings, and really all the amazing stuff that we have cooking up for you, and we have a lot, don't forget to like and subscribe, because it does really help the channel to grow. And of course, we are so thankful for that, and we are growing, so thank you. But also because it means you get notifications when our newest videos come out. That's the longs, that's the shorts, and really whatever we have in between. So now, let's get down to the video. All right, so while we are waiting for the WanderVision to get fired up here, let's do a real quick whiskey check. And I think, something that is going to be within the wheelhouse. In fact, a booth that we visited too, and it was very nice, and the folks were very cool. They're going to be enjoying some of this Benromach 10. Ooh, yeah. This is one of those ones that I always forget I have on the bar, but then I remember that I love it every single time I try it, and I need to get the older ages, which we did get to try. We definitely did get to try. So let's see if we can get a pop here. Turn it over. See if we can get a pop. Oh, 2 in a row. That's pretty good, man. These last videos, I'm getting them pops. All right, and let's see if we can get a little bit of juice here. Ooh, yeah. And to whiskey. Because, let's face it, you can never really drink too much of it. You can only just sort of drink it too fast. Cheers. Oh, delicious. Absolutely delicious. 100%. So let's start off by talking today about the event overall. It is held every year in the city of Paris in Paris. And Paris itself is an interesting whiskey environment because unlike the United States, there's not an oversized demand for bourbon, which means that it is considerably easier to get some of the hardcore unicorn bottles. Like, it's big enough that the stores get them, like the Pappies and the Stags, like those kinds of bottles. But the demand is not so high that you also can't get those bottles. But Scotch is a whole different story. There is such a strong demand for whiskey, and in fact rum, which was actually kind of a big surprise as well, that those things do kind of go pretty quick. And either way, we, as that being said, unfortunately, we were not able to get an appointment to be in the Macallan booth, which was kind of disappointing for sure. But of course, that's just the way it goes. But we did get to see some of the other really, truly amazing Scotches that were there and get to try them perhaps a little too much. Now it is, the Whiskey Live event is put on by the premier French whiskey house, La Maison du Whisky, and has hundreds, maybe even thousands of vendors, including things like the Blantons, or, Buffalo Trace overall, the Suntories and the Macallans, and you also get a cool little bag that we got and a glass that, didn't make it back on the trip. We had to pack it in glass and packed bags is never a good risk. But overall, I would say it was an amazing experience. And if you are ever in a position to go, and a trip to Paris is not a hard sell for the wife, I would definitely highly recommend it. Also, they have a boutique store that is in the event that sells some pretty rare Whiskey Live only whiskeys that are only available for sale there. In fact, we picked up a bottle of the Paris edition of Chichibu, but also some other pretty rare Scotches and bourbons were there as well. So let's talk about the booths that we did end up seeing. Now, first up for the Scotch booths that we hit up after doing a bit of shopping was one that especially I had on my list to get to, which was the Glenmorangie booth. Also, as a side note, it was so interesting. It really was so interesting as we went to all the booths to see kind of who were the folks who were patronizing these booths, because they are the same folks who also drink this type of whiskey. And it's interesting that like certain types of people seem to gravitate towards certain types of whiskey. And you actually get a pretty stark difference in the whiskey drinker from the Glenmorangie booth than you did from, you know, the Ardbeg booth or the Dalmore booth. But we'll get into that here in a second. So first up, the Glenmorangie booth, they had a pretty wide variety of Glenmorangies available. Glenmorangie, perhaps? I don't know. Available. They had the 14, the 12, the 18, which I'm sure were all very, very good. But the one that I had my eyes set on, it was something that we do have back here home, and we find it occasionally at Costco. And have come close to buying it multiple times, but of course I wanted to try it first. I just have not had a chance to, but did get a chance to, which was the Glenmorangie Signet Edition, and it did not disappoint. It was chocolatey, it was malty, it was not too ABV-rific, which really made the maltiness stand out. And I think that next time, as a result, when we do see it at Costco at a reasonable price, I may end up picking it up. Also, the folks congregating around the Glenmorangie booth, well, they felt very like mechanically inclined bunch of guys. Maybe like engineers, architects, those kinds of folks who are like technical and artistic mixed together. So it was one of my favorites from this tasting, and the guys from Glenmorangie were pretty awesome and had nice heavy pours. Thanks, guys. So I'll definitely be back if I ever get back. And next up was a booth that I was not going to leave the event without going to. It was one of my favorite Islay whiskey makers for their whiskey and for their company profile and character, which was Ardbeg. And their booth, it did not disappoint. The booth had a very hip and cool, but like dark sense of humor vibe. And I think the counter that they were actually serving the bottles from was actually a custom barbecue like set that they had like carved out and like cut up to be sort of a bar as well. And I'm not sure if it actually worked as a barbecue, but with a bit of schmoozing, the gentleman there in a kilt, you know, he appeared some of the Ardbeg 19 out of the bowels of the barbecue and surreptitiously poured some for me. And oh man, it was just so amazing. That 19 years just adds such a level of sophistication to the general Ardbeg profile that is good, but is always a bit wily, and you know, I would describe it as youthful and exuberant and a bit rough around the edges. That 19 years smooths it out, and it just seems to be just so much more well-balanced, well-peated, and the underlying minerally, fruity, stony goodness just kind of bloop, 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 rises to the top. So shout out to Ardbeg. Those folks were amazing. The gentleman in the kilt, I don't remember your name because I was quite a few drinks deep, but I am super thankful to have had a chance to meet you all, and you're all super cool, and thanks for the Ardbeg 19. So I think that next time around it will be the first booth that we get to. And also, not forgetting, the boutique store also had the Ardbeg 19, the purple button version, for sale, but alas, we did not end up picking that up. Now, next up was a booth that was not on our initial itinerary. We planned out our route, but it had a great presentation and that was thoroughly enticing. And again, is another Scotch that gets a lot of like positive hype on it, which was the Dalmore. And I had never tried before. I see it oftentimes behind the glass, you know, as we're doing our whiskey wanders, but just didn't have enough experience with the actual flavor palette as to whether to decide to, you know, buy one, but also to go up or down that line. And the Dalmore is sort of like Macallan, right? Or the Lagavulin, because it is a great whiskey, and the nice thing about it is that it does have the width and depth of their offerings that you could just keep your whiskey enjoyment within the bounds of their line. You can go up, you can go down, you can go side to side. There's just so many different varieties that are available. Now that being said, I bellied up to the bar and had a chance to try the cigar malt, which was good, and the 18, because, you know, if you are going to be drinking on the company's dime, you might as well shoot for the stars. And I found the whiskey to be enjoyable, but unremarkable. Yeah, definitely not something, you know, super exciting to get excited about. But, you know, to be fair, I was also a few samples deep at that point. And, you know, the very generous folks at Ardbeg had really hooked me up. But I can see the appeal of the Dalmore, but it just didn't suck me in like I had hoped it would. Not like trying the first Islay type of whiskeys or trying some of the other Japanese whiskeys that just hit me like that. Also, noticeably, this seems to be a whiskey that was enjoyed by, I don't know, it looked like it was just inhabited by, the booth was inhabited by professors as far as people who were drinking it, or maybe academic types. So I really liked the vibe. I felt it was very cool and studious, and the whiskey was good, but not great. But of course, that is just the opinion of one humble headless whiskey drinker. And the last booth that we're going to talk about today was another that really delivered on the experience, which was the Glenffidich booth. Now, Glenffidich is one of the scotches I have limited experience with, but I know that they have sort of a lot of high-end offerings and a variety of finishes that end up being super interesting when I see them on the shelves or see them behind the glass. Additionally, I've tried the lower end. I mean, you can't really go anywhere and not try any Glenffidich, right? It's available everywhere on the lower line, which is good. But and the booth was not all that interesting, but I wasn't there for the booth. I was there for the whiskey. And I got a chance to finally try side by side their cognac finish and their champagne finish scotches that I had been looking for. And when I tried them both, ultimately what I discovered, I like the champagne finish better. I mean, the cognac is good. Don't get me wrong, it's good. But the way the champagne just finishes off, whew, just so smooth, so nice. It just feels like classic. So again, that's another one that I think that when we see it available at the Costco at the right price, it's gonna have to add to the bar for sure. So that is about it for the booths that we are gonna talk about. But there were way more booths. There's an Aaron booth, an Ardbeg booth, Benromach, cheers. Mortalock. There were just so many, but you know, the liver can only take so much, especially when all you've had to eat is baguettes and snails. But the overall event was amazing. I think that it'll end up, I'll definitely end up going back at some point here in the future. And moreover, because of the great whiskey, the great people, and the very communal event that it was. It was not such a bacchanal that I thought it would be, but it was actually just cool to meet the reps and talk to fellow whiskey enthusiasts and even some whiskey people who are on YouTube, so that was kind of cool as well. Talk a little shop, but ultimately it was just cool to get a chance to bask in the multitude of the vastitude of the whiskeys that were available and try not to drink too fast. Fail. All right, so that's it for today's Whiskey Wanders, the last of our Whiskey Live series covering the Scotch booths that we got to try while at the event. And I really hope that you enjoy this video, and in fact, I hope you enjoy all of our videos, whether it is the Wanders or the hauls or the reviews, the unbottlings, the unboxings, and really all the amazing stuff that we have cooking up for you, and we have so much more. So if you do like it, please don't forget to like and subscribe, because it does help the channel grow, and we are, of course, so thankful for that. Thank you. But also, you know, it means that you get notifications when our newest long videos come out, when our newest short videos come out, and whatever kind of content we have anywhere in between. Now, just remember, if you do find a whiskey that you love, wherever you happen to be in the world, just buy it, because if you don't, somebody else surely will, and maybe not in this case, or maybe in this case, it might even be me. All right, everybody, have a great rest of your week. I'm out, and adios.